Welcome back, everyone, to These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. Kevin Horde here.
Lorenzo sitting over here.
Sup, dude?
Hello. We're moving right along again back in Clone Wars.
Yeah, how about that? We are, the world is still in chaos, I suppose, and COVID-19 is still an active health threat at these times.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we get to take our time to socially isolate halfway across the country, as we have been for, I don't know, a couple of years now, and talk about Star Wars.
Yep. Back into it. Yeah.
We were ahead of the curve, man.
My evenings are so free right now for us to sit down and record this.
It's crazy. What do we got this week? An episode called The Box, right?
The Box. This is Season 4, Episode 17 of the Clone Wars, yeah?
Yeah, production 409. This was released on February 3rd, 2012, written by Brent Friedman, directed by Brian Callan O'Connell.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. This is continuing our arc with Obi-Wan undercover, yeah?
Yeah. So I had 3 notes from last week of things that I was supposed to look into, one of which was being undercover. I didn't do that. I looked into hats. I disagree with a lot of things. And the last one was Jedi and money. And I did a little bit of research online, and some people seem to think that the Jedi Order is funded by the Republic Senate. I'm not sure that I agree with that, because I feel like the Jedi in general have existed before the Republic Senate. So maybe they're catching funding from them now. Other people suggested that you could make a comparison to the Catholic Church, right? And I don't think I agree with that either, just because of the fact that stories we hear or witness in the future that, you know, after the Jedi have fallen, the Jedi are like super mysterious. So I feel like if it was kind of a community crowd funded thing, that the Jedi would be more omnipresent in the zeitgeist of the Star Wars universe, right?
Okay, I get what you mean. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, even if people are not part of the Catholic religion, Catholicism is known.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas that is not the case with the Jedi.
Like the Jedi are still sort of legendary.
Mythical.
The mythical, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there are legends about them. They're mythical in another sense. I mean, this is kind of depending on how you want to look at it, like this is kind of the throughput of Luke Skywalker's whole conflict in The Last Jedi, right? Where
for sure.
He's been put up on this mythical pedestal, and he could not live up to that, and hence he lives on this island and is a hermit. And a lot of the criticisms levied against that movie are the fact that, like Luke would never act like that.
But would he? Yeah, because he might.
He might. I mean, he's a crotchety old man. I don't like. Why wouldn't he? So, yes, there's a lot of myth and legends that kind of fly around regarding the Jedi, and I understand what you mean. Where, you know, for a person who did not grow up with a Western religion, such as any sort of Christian sect of religion, Catholicism does not hold any sort of like mythical realm to me personally.
Right. It's just a thing.
It's a thing. Yeah. It's there. It's like it exists. I understand it.
Right.
You know, to some degree. But like, you know, the large cultural touchstones of Catholicism, like I get that, you know.
Right.
So, yeah.
Like you are aware of what
Jesus
Catholic
is.
Christmas is, and Jesus and Easter, and
Ash
and I feel
Wednesday.
like just that, you know, bringing it back to bringing it back to the Jedi, if they had some type of celebratory services or something.
Yeah. Like if there's a holiday that they celebrated but nobody else knew about it.
Right.
Right.
But just like in general, like the whole organization, if their monetary income is coming from celebrants of the Jedi religion, then I feel like there would be less mystery about them in the future after they're gone. Like everybody would know about it. Like if all of a sudden Catholicism was gone, it's not like in 20 years people would be like, "Oh, what Catholic? Like what is that? What's a Christian? What's Jesus? Who's that dude?"
Yeah, I vaguely remember this thing called Jesus,
And that's only been around for like 2,000 years, not 10,000 years, or maybe longer, 1,000 generations, right?
Right, because then like what you're talking about too is like by the time we get to Luke Skywalker, it sounds like coming from him, especially Luke, because like Luke was born right at the end of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right at the end. Mm-hmm. But then you would think that even in his upbringing that he would have encountered people that would have discussed it more with him, but like the viewpoint we get from him is still like this sort of interesting mythological look at it, right? Whereas maybe for something like Yourself and Myself, it's like it'd be like hearing about the Apollo missions,
okay,
and not quite believing that they ever happened.
Right, not understanding if it's story, if it's legend, story, or history.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I'm down.
Like it's really interesting that Luke is aware of certain historical facts there because he brings up Clone Wars, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right there in the New Hope, he brings it up, but then there are still other things that he needs to be explained, like the lightsaber, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what the lightsaber is. Like, yes, that's like a storytelling thing, but still, it's, the fact that, I don't know, it'd be like us hearing about weaponry from World War I and still like just getting totally mystified by it, right?
Right.
So,
yeah. I am with you.
Yeah. And that's not to discount that it can't happen. Like, there are certainly things from, like, World War I, World War II that if we hear about, certain facts might still surprise us, but we don't put it in a mythological sort of realm,
Yeah.
Anyways, carry on.
Totally with you. So I have basically decided that the income of the Jedi, maybe nowadays is funded by the Republic to a certain extent, but I think that maybe the origins of their wealth came from the monastic sort of life, where I don't think there was always like the too old to begin training. You got a group of people that came together and shared whatever commodities they had, whatever resources they had. And then when you have a group of thousands of individuals that pull zero income, and, maybe they take donations and whatnot from, say they go and they do a service for someone, and that service renders payment, goes into the pot, and there's probably some sort of Yoda investment banker that's been around for a while doing the thing, and I think
is there like
some real estate also, which is probably tax exempt or whatever.
Well, is there like a Jedi equivalent of Gringotts maybe or something?
Maybe, or like like a Jocasta Nu of money.
Okay. Yeah. Like a Alan Greenspan equivalent for the Jedi?
Maybe.
Okay. But, all right, yeah. I'm very curious about all of this now, if we ever come across any evidence of any of this.
There doesn't seem to be any actual facts behind anything money related and Jedi related. So I don't know if that's going to happen. Although, in the Disney era, like everything is about running out of gas right now. So maybe at some time we're going to start running out of funds. Who knows? Maybe we'll get to that down the road. None of this is important to this episode because the box is not about a box of money.
Definitely not.
It's about a crazy space game show, I'm pretty sure.
American Gladiators, essentially.
Kind of. Or survival, but only the physical challenges. We're going to get into that, but we'll start with the newsreel, right? Nope. We start with the fortune cookie, and that is the strong survive, the noble overcome.
Yeah.
Who you got on this one?
I don't know about this one. If it was just like the first one with a separate second bit, it's that second bit that kind of...
The noble overcome.
Yeah.
The only person of nobility that I know of, or I guess the two, would be Padme and Dooku. Right?
Right.
That's like...
But do you think that, like, who...
I don't think either of these people would have said this.
Right. Who would even say a quote where, like, the noble overcome? Like, that's where I kind of got stuck on this one, where I'm just like, I don't know who would actually...
Yeah, I might
phrase
stick
it
with...
in that way.
Who did we have last week? Palpatine, right?
Yeah.
I think I'm going to just stick with Palpatine this time.
I don't even think Palp would say anything like this, though.
I don't know.
Noble overcome, like...
I think that he sees himself as, like, Sith nobility. You know, if we can skew this into, like, a Sithness and, say he's talking to a young Darth Maul who's strong.
I think, no, okay, yeah, but...
I'm stretching here.
It's not even that the noble bit that's bothering me. It's the overcoming bit, right? Like... Survival versus overcoming. And maybe we're spending way too much time on this, but like it's the difference on how somebody would see survival versus perhaps another way to put it is like adversity. Like I don't think Palpatine would give a shit about somebody overcoming like some sort of adversity, making them noble.
What if it's not adversity though? What if it's directly like defeat of someone else? Like
I wouldn't, but that comes to like the word overcome. Like it's
right.
Defeat is a little different than like overcoming something, right?
Okay.
Like that's where I get stuck on this quote, and that's why I don't want to give it to Palpatine, because it's like it's too soft almost.
Okay. Now, could this come up? To your point, could this come up in like the conversation, like before the whole story of Darth Plagueis the Wise, when he's like trying to convince Anakin that he has like some higher power within him? You know what I'm saying here? Am I making sense?
I get what you're reaching for, but I still feel like he would be a little bit more forceful with Anakin, right? Like, because he's like trying to groom him into being like Big Daddy Boss, right?
Yeah.
Like if this was flipped, like the noble overcome, but the strong survive. Like that already. Like if the strong bit is the point.
So this is a quote by Palpatine spoken by Yoda.
I don't even see it that way. No.
I'm just saying that that's the way that we could flip-flop this thing.
Yeah, I don't know on this one, honestly.
We might be stumped here. I'm going to stick with Palpatine for now. We may come back to it.
Yeah, we spent like 5 minutes on this thing, so
that's all good. So our newsreel is basically a recap, except for at the end of it, we find out that the Luxury 3000 is headed to Sereno, which is like the home base of Dooku, right? And then the episode proper starts with the landing of the L3000. I was going to call it the L3, but there already is an L3 in Star Wars, so we're not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call it 3000. We're going to move away from this ship pretty shortly, so it doesn't matter anyway. Dooku is there to meet them in person, and Eval comes out, Cad Bane comes out, and then this other character, right? We already know that it's Obi-Wan in disguise as Hardeen, and Eval apologizes to Dooku, like, hey, sorry it took so long or whatever, there was complications, and Dooku's like, your complications could have cost us this mission, essentially. Which seems like things are urgent as far as the time period goes. But then I feel like actions later in this episode prove otherwise.
I'll let you carry forward then.
Dooku is basically like, okay, I know that's Cad Bane, who's this other guy? And Eval kind of introduces him. He's like, yo, it's this Hardeen guy, and if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have escaped the prison because Cad Bane's plan sucked or whatever. And Cad's like, I don't give a shit about that. Like, we got here, I want my money. Hardeen, quote unquote, agrees. And Dooku's like, oh, I'll get you your money and even more if you do this next thing. And then they're escorted like inside somewhere by some Magna guards, and Dooku tells Eval to prepare the tournament. So we're almost to the introduction of, in quotes, the box. However, we do have to cut over to Yoda for a little bit. He's in his Venetian blinds office, right?
Yeah.
It's always perfectly sunlit in there with a little bit of shadow and a little bit of sunshine. Anakin comes in, and my note says Yoda tells Anakin the truth, which is kind of right. And then Anakin's all pissed, like, how could you keep this from me? I could have totally helped him. And Yoda's like, yeah, but you're kind of a hothead, so that wouldn't have worked out. And right now, you need to just trust that Obi-Wan can take care of himself. And he's like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna save him. And Yoda's like, you might, or you might make things worse. Maybe you could help. Maybe Obi-Wan doesn't need your help. Maybe he does. Maybe he's gonna die. Nobody knows.
Right.
We'll find out.
Yoda basically tells Anakin to be patient, and then is like, look, unclear this future is. I'm like, yes, that's how the future works most of the time. So, yeah, this conversation was interesting. It does help set up things later on, you know.
Later on in this episode?
Not in this episode, but definitely in the following episode, having sat down for this one and the next one. In talking
Lorenzo
about it right now.
Looking into the future.
Yeah, as in talking about it right now, I'm like finally like, oh, right, that's why this scene exists.
Yeah, in the context of this episode in isolation, it's weird.
It's a far left step from everything else that was going on.
It's like, hey, we got this stuff going on. Oh wait, here's Yoda.
Yeah, it's a weird far left step, and honestly, it could have been maybe placed at the end of this episode. Like, I don't know why it needed to be here at this moment.
I don't think it needed to be included
this
at
episode.
all.
Yeah,
I don't think it needed to be included at all. Like,
I won't disagree with you. Yeah, because like,
remind
to set up.
Remind me next week to bring this back up, and we'll talk about its relevance then.
Right. Yeah.
But
back to the box.
Yeah. At this point, we cut back to the baddies, and Dooku is like introducing this game, and it's not just Eval, Cad Bane, and Hardeen. There's like a whole bunch of other people. Cad Bane actually sees this Ithorian wearing his old hat. Don't know how that happened, but whatever. So he does what Cad Bane does, and he murders a guy, and he takes his hat back. Right?
Is it his hat, or is it just a hat that looked like his?
Doesn't matter.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I just assumed it was a hat that just looked like it. It wasn't like his actual like hat.
Yeah, I assumed it was his, but I don't know. I don't know if that's the actual case or not. But we are already down one baddie in this episode, and they kind of drop off like flies. You know,
Do they?
throughout the course of this thing, we start with like 12
sort of,
people, and we end up with 5, right? So it's like a 70% death rate.
Right.
We don't often see that in the Clone Wars.
Like, just to do a roll call, just get that out of the way. They are Embo, Darwin, Twazi, Sixtat, Jacoli, Mantu, Kira, Swan, Sinrich, and Anka.
Yep. And then, Anka is the brother of the Ithorian that was taken out. So I have descriptions of all these guys. Doesn't really matter. No. I call them guys. They're a male. They're a female. There are potentially other. We've got alien species. We've got some species we've seen before, like Rhodian, Ithorian.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, I named them all, but like I could not tell you who was who. Even though Dooku in the show, he goes through the roll call and they're showing them, and then immediately, like, in my brain, it like took that sheet of paper with all that information and just put it straight in a shredder.
Yeah, so I took the time to like write down what Bane says as he's introducing these people, and
Bane
it's
or Dooku?
Some interesting stuff. Like, I did enjoy this scene a lot. It was fun, but it's weird because Dooku is narrating to like a non-existent audience.
Yes.
And
yeah.
He starts this with saying, "You are the best bounty hunters in the galaxy," and that would lead me to believe that in the bounty hunter culture, these people would potentially already know each other or have heard of each other. But he goes through a roll call like, this is this person, and this is what they're known for, and this is this person, this is what they're known for, and runs through all 11. Would have been 12 if Anka's brother was not already killed, right? So when he gets to the end of that, he's like, "Okay, welcome to the box." He says some of you will die, some of you will make it through. Regardless, we're only accepting 5 of you, and everybody else is going to be killed anyway.
Yeah.
This seems illogical and irresponsible to participate in.
It seems overly elaborate, too. Okay, so before we even get to the box here, before we get in the box or understand what the box is, like,
it looks like a giant floating Borg cube.
Right. Well, okay. So up to this point, I have so many questions with how this episode is set up because of, okay, so even that Yoda interlude aside, after the last 2 episodes, the fact that we get to this episode and it's not clear even up to this point what's going on. At most, we have Dooku mentioning tournament,
and timeline. Don't forget the timeline. You almost fucked up my timeline. Or press for time here.
Oh, right, yeah. So, like, there's some sort of urgency, but like, oh, we're going to host a tournament. And in my head, one of my notes is like, why is Dooku holding a contest of some sort during an active war situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is the weirdest sidestep of a story entirely before I even understand what we're getting into.
Yep.
Right?
I am with you.
So, like, it's so weird. And also, like, just the way this first episode is, or this first act here is setting things up, because it's so vague. Instead of having an air of mystery about any of this, it just, like, leads me to keep asking why. Why are we watching this? Why are we here? Like, what is the goal of this, right? And I think, like, sort of what was missing here, and I was thinking this while I was watching the episode, was like, because Dooku just straight up spits these names out, and we just like get a one-liner, and we move on. It's weird that there's 11 too, and it's gonna get whittled down to 5. Like it's just weird numbering, but I don't know why they didn't take like Enter the Dragon as influence here. Like I feel like that would have maybe built it up a little bit better. Right?
Okay. Do you feel like there was an influence here, or?
I was like sort of seeing some of that, but then at the same time I was like, I don't know. Like I feel like they should have just gone deeper into it. Like it's just because it's like that weird tournament style thing, right? Like it reminded me sort of like any sort of like Chinese tournament style movie that goes through that sort of thing, like or like Bloodsport, right? Jean-Claude Van Damme, or Karate Kid style. Like let's just introduce all the random tournament players, right? And
yeah, but at least that they're combating against each other. We'll get into the specifics of what happens in the box. Like this is not a tournament. This is a series of challenges, and that's it.
But that's what I'm saying. Like it's so. This is even more weird. It's like 5 will be chosen. And then, okay, so just jumping ahead just a little bit, and then we can explain.
Do it, man.
But there's in the first obstacle, one of the contestants, as I will call them, yells out, like, every man for himself. And then at some point, then Obi-Wan as Hardeen is like, no, like, hey, there's a way out here, you know. Like,
yeah. If it wasn't for Obi-Wan, all of these people would have died.
Right, in like the very first obstacle.
Do you want to just get into the box?
Yes, let's just explain the box. Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, it looks like a big Borg cube, and then Eval explains to everybody, like, I designed this thing. Okay, great for you, Eval. They ride this turbo lift up that is just like a levitating platform into the center, or somewhere in the center. They enter from the bottom, and then it's basically like a holodeck danger room type situation that has like a morphology to change the shape of the room, the floor, the ceiling, whatever, and it's got projection screens and all kinds of stuff. And then, so the first quote-unquote challenge is everybody is just put on like a pillar that slowly rises to the ceiling, and then there's dioxin coming out of the floor.
It's the gas that comes first, and then the pillars, which is weird. Like it's weird. So and then
Obi-Wan realizes, like, because there's one pillar that goes all the way to the ceiling, some alien has to jump down or some shit, and Obi-Wan's like, oh, the exit isn't up, it's down. My mask will filter the toxins, and like jumps down into the hole, and he's like, hey guys, remember that hole that opened in the floor the dioxin came from? Like, this is the way we go. And then everybody makes it to the step 2.
Yeah, not a single person dies in this first one.
So if it wasn't for Obi-Wan, like, everyone would have died, ?
Yeah, probably.
And then Dooku would have been like, wow, your box is awesome. Also, we have nobody to finish the thing that we are in a time crunch for.
Right. So the second one is basically a challenge where there are horizontal columns that come out of the walls that have laser spikes at the end of them.
Yeah, like kind of lightsabers.
Yeah, sort of lightsabers. Like they kind of remind me of it's like an old 2D video game, like an old platformer game.
Okay.
And I can't remember it just feels like a vague memory. Like I feel like most platformers like had this sort of level, right? Like like even like the old Super Mario Brothers, it's like when you got to Bowser's castle and it had like the fire
the rotating fire thing in the original.
Yeah, the rotating fire thing, right? That you had to like jump over, you know?
Totally agree with you.
So basically it just felt like an old 2D platformer game, but like in a 3D space of this television show. And again, it's like another weird thing where like everybody's like avoiding it. A couple of people get taken out by these like tiny lightsaber things at the end of these sticks.
Yeah, Anka dies. Kira Swan dies.
I like how you kept track of that. Again, I did not remember anybody who was named at all.
So, okay, there's an alien that's like all tentacles and has 3 eyes and like a mushroom for a head.
Uh-huh.
And this guy's name is Daron. Or Daron. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But at one point in time, he's like using his tentacles to like flip and hang and rotate like underneath these horizontal pillars.
Right.
And then he does like this flip off the thing to like grab onto another one. And it does this like weird 2 seconds of like bullet time where it like slows down and the music's all dramatic and shit. This stuck out to me immensely because we never see this before. We don't see it in the future. Like, why draw attention at this one specific point in time?
Also, I don't understand.
Not only that, this guy can float.
Right, that was going to be my next point. I don't understand. He can float. I was wondering this too. I don't understand the physics of this guy.
I don't know. Cad Bane calls him a gas bag later, so maybe it has something to do with his internalness.
I don't know.
Maybe he's got some type of helium-like gut.
Again,
airbag. I'm not really sure.
Barely noticed any of these people, but the way they solved this one is, again, Hardeen notices that there is some sort of pattern to how these pillars are popping out of the walls. So he's like, oh, there's a pattern. We just got to hop up to this other hole in the ceiling or in the wall or something like that.
Mm-hmm. It's in the ceiling.
Yeah. So again, they're platforming their way up again, like an old like Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah, it's like Kid Icarus. Do you remember that game?
Yes, of course. Yeah. So you're just bopping around and
platform to platform. Avoid the obstacles and correct your timing. You're good to go.
Exactly. So then everybody follows him that they can, at least the ones that don't get taken out by the little lightsaber stick thingies.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about this point that we get a cutaway to Dooku and basically yelling at what's his face, Eval, right?
Yeah, so in between like each room we have a cutaway with Dooku and Eval, and Dooku is just kind of talking shit on Eval and talking up Hardeen, and he's getting a little bit of info because Dooku's like, man, this guy's good, and I get a funny feeling about him. Like, where'd he come from? Why do you like this guy? You know, why did you bring him here or whatever? And Eval's like, oh, he killed Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then you just see Dooku like, Obi-Wan Kenobi, like repeat it. And then we go back to room number 3 or whatever. So, I don't know if Dooku is figuring out that it is Obi or what, but
yeah, it's weird.
He's got
a weird moment.
It's basically Dooku has a funny feeling, and he's talking trash on Moralo. So then we go to room number 3. We only have 8 contestants left because I guess Anka was gone, Kira Swan's gone, and Senric is gone. I don't even know who that is.
I didn't even count how many people died. I was just like, cool, some people died. Great.
Yep. One of them I didn't see get taken out. Doesn't matter.
Again, I did not count. I did not notice.
Room number 3 is the second to last room, and Eval's like, you have to get through this one to get to my final room. And when he was talking to Dooku, Dooku's like, when Dooku is talking about Hardeen, he's like, that guy's been kicking your box's ass, man. And Eval says, let's see how he fares when he's not the one that's going to be the key player to get through this room. So this room is big square with ray shields. and apparently these are deadly ray shields because the ray shields that we've seen in the past are simply containment. These shock you to death or something, right? Mm-hmm. And then Eval explains that this pedestal comes up and he's like, there's a syringe here and it has a highly electrolytic solution that is toxic to everyone except for one of you.
Right.
Big surprise, it's the one alien that isn't humanoid.
Right. It's like very physiologically different than everybody else. Yeah.
But for the most part, they're just kind of like looking around like, what do we do? And I mean, it's pretty clear. Eval told you exactly what you need to do. You need to inject this shit into one of you, and then they can go through the ray shield and hit the button.
Right.
Somehow Obi-Wan knows that it is the drone guy, the tentacly alien. When the tentacly alien grabs it, Cad Bane's like, hey, who put you in charge? And Obi-Wan's like, no, let him do it because he's this species and his blood type will accept the electrolytic solution. Cad's like, are you sure? And he's like, I don't know, 50-50, whatever. So it works. I think we lose a couple more people here. Not that
at least
that
one
matters.
guy falls to the ground, yeah.
Because not only are there ray shields, but then we also have like the columns and the pillars moving around and shit.
And the walls are closing in too.
And the walls are closing in, and the ray shields are closing in, but in the nick of time, we're good. So then we get to the final room. And the final challenge, like, a bunch of the floor turns to fire, and that is just dramatic.
So we're in
and
Bowser's
it doesn't
castle.
matter. And
we're in Bowser's castle.
Absolutely. We are in a combination of Bowser's castle and, I don't know, like the 7th Saw movie or something like that.
Nope. I only saw the first 2, so that's up to
you need to watch them, man. But so the final challenge is a sniper challenge, right?
Right.
And not all of them have to sniper. Just one of them has to sniper.
Yeah.
And if they miss the target, then part of the platform that they're on falls off.
The platform gives way and kills them basically immediately.
But only if you're standing on the edge. So here's my thing. So
only the person sniping, only the person making the attempt.
Room number 3 has this ray shield thing.
Yeah.
If this one alien, A, wasn't brought into the quote-unquote tournament, or B, didn't make it this far,
right?
Yes, I do believe that Moralo could have crafted something else, but it seems like he has a progression of things that he has predetermined to be the order of operation for the box, right? Also, if they didn't figure it out or fucking stab the wrong person with the syringe, again, everybody dies.
Right.
And their timeline is fucked again.
Well, I don't understand. Again, still. Okay, so like what we know up to this point is still not. We know 5 will be chosen. But then, like, especially room 3 and room 4, what is the actual challenge here? Right? Like, if you're trying to pick the best of the best and you pick 12 and you want to whittle to the best 5,
right?
How do these accomplish that goal?
They don't. Spoiler alert, Embo makes it all the way through. Embo we have seen in the past. He's a returning character. We saw him in the that Seven Samurai episode. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
Where they were on a planet and there was like some farmers or whatever, and
right. They needed help, and yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like A Bug's Life.
Yes. So he's returning from that episode.
Uh-huh.
He doesn't do anything in this except for follow directions. Like, Obi-Wan's like, jump down in the hole, and he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna jump down in the hole. Makes it through. And then Obi-Wan is talking to Cad Bane. He's like, I figured out the order. Follow me. And Embo follows him. Like, physically, he's dexterous, so he's able to, like, do the things that need to be done.
Right.
Room 3, it's all about this tentacly guy. Right?
Yeah.
No one else has any control over the outcome of anything. And each of these rooms lasts, like, 1 minute.
Uh-huh.
You know? And then they get to this one, and it's a sniper deal. So, like, Six Tat grabs the sniper rifle, because there's only one, hits 2 targets, misses one, and he just happened to be standing on the edge of the platform. If he was standing in the middle of the platform, I think the edge would have fallen off, and he would have still been there, because Obi-Wan remarks, like, oh, if we miss the target, then that platform gets smaller. Meanwhile, Embo's just, like, standing in the back. Mm-hmm. So then Obi-Wan gets the gun, hits all 3 targets. Eval comes out and he was like, oh, ho, ho. Woe is me, you are so good. Now try hitting 5 targets. And there's 2 of them at once. Obi-Wan hits 4, and then, lo and behold, the blaster is out of charge.
Mm-hmm.
And Eval's like, yes, you suck. Also, bounty hunters sometimes have to be lucky, and you're unlucky. So he just drops all the platforms out except for where these other 4 people are.
I don't understand the point of any of this.
It happens in stages. So Obi-Wan's on like a single wide platform that's like 4 pegs deep, 4 squares deep, and it's like square 1, square 2, square 3, square 4. He could have jumped out of here even without using the Force. Like, he's proven that Rico Hardin is physical enough to, like, jump up to the platform where the other 4 people are, but instead he's just like, and falls down. Cad Bane saves him, which I think that's cool for Cad Bane. Like, the whole time Cad Bane's been like, I don't want your help. I did this on my own.
There is a line here, though, from Cad Bane that I did write down, because I did like this quote where he says, if you're going to kill him, do it like a man.
Kill him like a man.
And I really like that line. I think that adds a lot to his character, right? Mm-hmm. But then it just, like, drives home what the fuck is the point of this box? Like, if Aval is just going to kill this guy anyways, what the fuck is the point of any of this? What are we testing? If you load 4 and you tell him to shoot 5, obviously he can't shoot the 5th one, so what the fuck are you trying to fucking prove?
He's just trying to take out Hardin because Dooku's been like, oh, maybe I should put Hardin in charge. Like, you built this thing, and he's kicking your machine's ass, dude.
But then from Dooku's viewpoint, like, what the fuck is any of this proving? Like, if you're gonna let this guy kill this other guy who's clearly leading the team, you know, isn't that counter fucking productive? Like,
yes, and to your point, when Cad Bane says, if you're going to kill him like a man, Dooku says, I agree, and then he takes over the controls. Yeah. Because Moralo's, like, poked his head out. I guess the control room is, like, right on the other side of the wall perpetually or something. I don't really know. So Dooku hits some buttons and knocks Eval down onto a floor,
like
the floor.
One of the platforms, yeah.
So then
like another platform pops up, but then like Aval still has control of some functions via a wristband anyways.
And I guess he and Hardin are supposed to fight. I don't really know, because Dooku's like, show me what you're made of or whatever. I thought that there was going to be a challenge for him specifically, but it's just a fight between him and Hardin. And so Eval calls in these droids or drones or whatever.
Something, yeah.
There's some cool visuals, and that's it. And then Obi-Wan
just world's smallest maze pops up at one point.
Oh yeah, that's the easiest maze in the world. Yeah. I wish podcast listeners, I wish that I could draw a picture with my mind.
It's literally like one.
It's a switchback hallway. That's it.
A 90-degree turn, and then like that's it.
You can build one of these. outside of your dark room if you are a photographer and you eliminate like the roundabout you would have to go through, because the light can't make two 90-degree turns to get back into the dark room.
Yeah. It's
a U shape, and that is all.
This whole thing is silly, yeah.
And then Obi-Wan ends up straddling him and just wailing on this dude's face until Moralo relents, and Dooku, pulls a Palpatine. He's like, finish him, huh?
Yeah. Obi-Wan destroys the bracelet too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that ends that conflict because Reiko Hardin / Obi-Wan Kenobi gets up and he's like, honestly, I want to do the job and get paid. And then Dooku comes down and he's like, because of your lack of leadership. It sounds like he's addressing everyone, but he's just addressing Moralo.
I don't know. I only heard him. It only seemed like he was addressing, Aval to me here.
Oh, okay. Because like the way he does it, it's like all fluid from like, he says,
just because he's like floating down and still kind of talking to Hardin, maybe like.
Yeah, and he's like, because of your lack of leadership, da 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 da. So it's like it goes from like a comment to one person specifically to like a comment to everyone, and just kind of all bleeds together. But he's
because then like he keeps going, and he's like, oh, by the way, Cad Bane, you're the leader. Great, cool.
Yep.
Like,
he's like, you guys made it. Good on you. By the way, you'll get the details of the job on the way there, and Cad Bane's in charge, and you're all working for him now. And then we get like the Guardians of the Galaxy lineup of the participants.
Which
Iris and cue loud music, and that's it.
Right. Yeah.
Well, there's 6 with
Aval. Yeah.
So I guess the plan was Eval plus 5 plus Dooku. So 7 total.
So
here's what I want to bring up before we do our final judgment and whatever. This arc is about Obi-Wan figuring out the plan, because somehow the Republic found out, or the Jedi found out, that there's a plot to kidnap Chancellor Palpatine, right?
Yeah.
So the way he does this is by faking his death, taking over the identity of the assassin, going to prison, breaking out of prison, going to some random world to get some ships and crash ships and get ships and go to the gas station, then go to Dooku's hideout, then compete in a game show. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, yeah.
Okay. Just so we're all on the same page.
Yep, that's yeah. And again, like, okay, so even just taking this episode alone, just again, we spent 40 minutes describing this episode, but again, in a nutshell, this episode presents us with Dooku saying that they're under a time crunch and that there is a job application, but the job application is a series of challenges in which not every person actually gets fucking challenged.
Right.
Right. That's this episode. That's this episode specifically, right?
Yep.
Just want to verify this. Okay. So,
can I interject real quick?
Yes.
I do the hiring for our company at work. I have been on a time crunch to hire people, and I have had interviews very close to, I'm paraphrasing, but very close to, do you have a driver's license? Do you have a heartbeat? Are you on drugs? And if you answer yes, no, I say you can start tomorrow. That's how a time crunch hiring works.
Right. Yeah.
I'm thinking about building a very complex
Like a hedge maze or something.
Yeah, but the world's easiest hedge maze, and then I'll have some monkey bars and maybe some other stuff.
Like,
and you gotta throw a rock at a tin can,
no,
and then I'll tell you that you're not good enough, and I'll hire whoever followed you.
Well, no, yeah, it'd be like if you designed the Tri-Wizard tournament during the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
And rather than focusing on the war, you're just like, oh, but I want to pay attention to this thing that I've designed and put together. Like, this is what confuses me about this episode entirely. And I just don't... The fact that, like, even by the end, just, like, it's in, like, the last, like, 30 seconds that they're like, oh, by the way, we went through all of this because I want to hire you guys to be in the final plan to capture Palpatine. It's still... like, that's all we get right at the end, but then, like, every step of the way, all I'm thinking with each passing minute is, why am I watching this? What is this for? Why are we here?
Yeah. So let's just jump to final judgment. Thumbs up, thumbs down. What do you got on here?
Look, this episode isn't boring. I'll give it that.
Okay.
But this is a thumbs down.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to give this one a thumbs down. It's fun to watch. Okay. There are some good visuals.
Yeah.
It is not boring. Things move along fine, except for that weird Yoda side clip that happens one time and one time only. Here's my thought. If you just watched this episode, you would have no understanding except for from the newsreel that Obi-Wan Kenobi is undercover as this Reiko Hardeen guy. Nor would you really have any context to why that is happening. And then you get this weird The Box game show thing going on. And then you move on to like, oh, you gotta watch next episode to see why this is relevant. It's fine, but it's not one that I would recommend as necessary viewing. I feel if you're going to watch this arc, you could watch like the first two parts, totally skip this, and it would have no bearing on whatever happens next.
I agree. Yeah, that's what I didn't get about this episode. Okay, so like taking in both contexts. So like,
sure,
in the context of the arc, absolutely no bearing. There's no reason for this episode to exist. It could have just been like, oh, I've hired the best of the best.
Done.
Here, yeah, moving on. Like,
best of the best of the best, sir.
Yeah.
With honors.
Like, you guys are the best. Like, I don't even know why it had to be bounty hunters. Why couldn't they just hire trusted other people? I don't fucking know. But again, even taking this episode on its own, as in my like final line of questioning to you, right? Like, it's set up in such a weird fucking way that even within its own context, even if you just kind of like try and see this as like even if you just try and take it on its own entertainment value, right? It just adds in like these weird little factors that just still bog it down with so many questions as to like, but why? It always comes back to like, but why? You're on a time crunch, so why are you doing this? Why is this the way you would do it? If you yourself are trying to whittle out like the best 5 here, why have these 2 challenges that don't test any actual fucking skills, right?
None of them do.
Yeah, I was going to say, even the first 2 really are just like finding your way out, but those aren't really like skill testing. Like,
I would argue that the first room is maybe a little bit of logic. Like when Obi-Wan's like, the exit isn't up, it's down.
It's like maybe like basic problem solving, The first one's like basic problem solving.
But
like,
then it's also luck. The second one would be pattern recognition.
Yes.
The third one is 100% reliant on species-specific knowledge and
like
that
physiological
species
understanding. Yeah.
Right. And then the fourth one is one person being tested on their sniper skills.
Right. Like,
that's it.
I just didn't like. I don't get why it wasn't like a race or some sort of like actual tournament. Like this isn't a tournament to me. I don't understand.
It's totally not a tournament.
Right.
At all.
I just didn't understand. And again, it was like the other issue of like, we name these people. I don't care about any of them. And even by the end of the episode, the only people I could name are Hardeen, Aval, and Cad Bane. Like, that's it. And Dooku, you know.
I can also name Embo.
Even that, I couldn't. If
and Jerome.
Okay, like, look.
The other one or two, I'm not really sure.
In 5 weeks, you ask me, hey, do you remember that episode, The Box? And I'll be like, yeah, I remember what happens in that episode. And you go, hey, name anybody who's not Aval, Hardeen, Dooku, Cad Bane. I'm like, fuck you.
I feel, honestly, like you probably will have forgotten Hardeen's name by then.
Oh, I probably will. I'll be like, oh, yeah, like the dude Obi-Wan was disguised as. You know, it's just... This is just complete nonsense. This whole episode is complete, absolute fucking nonsense.
You know, I get the idea of this Men in Black, best of the best challenge, and you know, like the Captain America. You gotta find you got these participants and you need to find like the one, but then when it's like you need 5 and the challenges are silly, like I said, it looks cool. I can't follow the logic of any of this, and that's why.
It just, yeah, I think I'm not against the idea of this episode in general. It's just placed oddly in this arc. Mm-hmm. This isn't the arc to do it, right?
I feel like it's fun, but it doesn't matter.
Yes, I agree. Like, I don't know why they wanted to write this sort of episode. Like, that's a separate issue that we probably never will have answered, right? Like, I feel like this could have been adapted for clones, and it would have been fine.
I mean, I feel like we kind of saw this with the Citadel.
Yes, I agree. I 100% agree.
A little bit different.
But again, it's just like the writing of the challenges and like there's no logic behind these challenges, and thus in watching it, it's just like, as entertaining as it is in the moment, like there's still like, again, I still was just sitting there staring at the screen just going, why are we doing any of this? Mm-hmm. What is this for? Like, it'd be one thing if like maybe like I'm curious too, like if Dooku had just said up front, like, hey, the 5 of you that make it, like, you guys are here because we're gonna try and kill Palpatine, but in order to make sure you're worthy, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go inside this box, right? I feel like even that would have kind of at least kind of stopped me from just like, where are we going with this? What is the fucking point, right?
But he's all weird about it at the beginning. Like, he says, some of you will survive, some of you won't, and some of you, even if you do survive, I'm going to kill you anyway because we're only taking 5 in order to secure the integrity of the mission ahead. But nobody knows what the fucking mission is.
Right. Like, again,
nobody in their right mind would participate in this. Doesn't matter how much money there is.
Yeah, to not know what the mission is. Like, that's what bothers me. Like, I feel like I don't think it would have saved this episode, but I would have been less fucking angry about it if the goal was established at the beginning. Because otherwise,
I agree with you.
Huh?
I agree with you.
Yeah, because otherwise, like, okay, yes, like the stakes are that these people are dying, but really, the stakes are only there for 2 of the characters that I care about. Everybody else is getting picked off one by one. But again, there's no established like care for these characters, right? Like, if you're gonna go Saw style or any other sort of like Alien, right? There's like the lunch or dinner scene where they're all hanging out in the commissary having a conversation, so like you fully understand each of these characters before they get picked off, and it's only scary because you actually care for these fucking people. But in this thing, it's like, oh, there goes that character, cool, I'm gonna not miss you because I didn't even commit your name to memory here even though your name was mentioned literally 5 minutes ago.
So I don't know if you can hear this, but we are in the midst of a thunderstorm here.
I can vaguely hear that, but it's all right.
If you hear some rumblings, it's not just Lorenzo's opinion of this episode.
But I mean, look, like,
yeah, I think
there are no stakes to this.
For me, the most interesting scene of this episode is the Dooku narration of introducing all 11 people involved.
I didn't even find that interesting.
I liked that because it is like there is some world building to it. Like, one of them is introduced as having been the 2-time winner of the Obsidian Sphere. Sorry. I don't know what the fuck that is.
But no, okay.
I care more about finding out more information about that than these silly challenges that happened after that.
No, well, here's the problem with that, though. He goes like, oh, here are these 11 people, but 5 of them are only going to make it through. So then immediately when you set that up, why should I care?
I feel like maybe I would have held this one in a better light if it was like, we have a mission, this is the mission, we have, say, 10 spots, or 10 key things, or even you cut it down to like 6 people. There's 6 things that need to be done. We're putting you through these quote unquote challenges in the box to see which spot you need to be in. You know what I mean? Like, if you need an escape driver, and you have 4 people, you're going to find who's the best driver, and you're going to put them in that slot. And then you need a sniper, you're going to find the best sniper, and you're going to put him in that spot. You know what? As opposed to, so we have a group of people, we're going to accept some of you. It should be like, we've already chosen you. We're going to... I'm not saying that makes any sense.
Right. Because, like...
I'm saying if you want to do these silly challenges, like...
Right.
This would maybe then justify like why we're doing each challenge.
Yeah, like here's the bottom line. Like, you and I are really trying to find any reason for this to exist, when really like why are they putting this to chance for such an important mission? Why would you not automatically know who's a good driver? Hire that person out. Why would you not like it'd be like instead of Ocean's 11, where he knows exactly what he needs to do to break into the Bellagio. Right? Like, Danny Ocean knows what needs to be done, and therefore he finds the people that fill each role. And hell, if there's 11 of them and they need to split it 11 ways, well, so be it, because otherwise, if there's 10 of them, it's not going to fucking work, and Danny Ocean knows that, right? So he just picks them out. But, like, instead, he starts with 20 people and just goes, oh, by the way, we're playing this mega game of laser tag. Have fun. But guess what? They're real guns. Like,
most deaf.
And then, like, at the end, it's like, oh, there's 6 of them. Cool. We'll figure out how to break into this still with the 6 of you guys after the fact. Like,
yeah,
great.
I 100% agree with you. and I'm also ready to move on. And I think some of these comments are going to potentially come up next week. We're especially going to talk about that Yoda scene. I'll make myself a note. I think we're beating a dead horse at this point.
For sure. This episode's bad.
Not my favorite.
No.
So this one got 2 thumbs down. So we'll have to see how next week goes. And that is, what is next week's episode?
Crisis on Naboo.
I totally thought this was a 3-parter, and I got to the end of it, and I was like, man, that's a weird way for this 3-parter to end. It's not a 3-parter. It's a quadro. So next week we have Crisis on Naboo.
Closes out.
We got a couple of behind-the-scenes people that have been helping us out. Kind of wish they would have been here today to help us through this one, but that's Kevin at They Call Me K-Dub. He's essentially our graphic designer. Our musician would be Lindsay at strangefantasymusic@gmail.com, and then our website designer and hoster is Anthony at Blue the Beard on Twitter. That's all I got for that. So I'm excited to get to next week and see how this thing wraps up, and hopefully it doesn't drag on to a 5th episode.
Hopefully there's a point to next week's episode. So
we shall see. Until then, I've been Kevin.
I've been Lorenzo.
These aren't the nerds you're looking for.
Bye-bye.